Nobody in the survival world wants to say this out loud, but when things actually fall apart, when the power goes down and the stores close and the supply chain breaks, it's almost never the expensive gear that saves you. It's not the $400 tactical backpack, it's not the military-grade water filtration system, it's not the custom bug-out kit you spent 3 months researching online. More often than not, it's something cheap, something sitting on a shelf at your local grocery store for under $1, something you walked past 100 times without thinking twice about, something so ordinary it never crossed your mind as a survival tool. That's the uncomfortable truth about preparedness that most people in this space won't tell you, because it doesn't sell expensive products. Real preparedness isn't built around dramatic gear. It's built around small, unglamorous, overlooked essentials that most people don't stock until it's already too late. And here's the thing that most preparedness conversations completely miss. In a genuine emergency, whether that's a natural disaster, a prolonged grid failure, a supply chain collapse, or something nobody predicted, the things that become most valuable aren't the things that are hardest to find. They're the things that were always available and that almost nobody thought to store. We're going to go through 21 of those items today. None of them will cost you much. Most of them are probably already in your home in some quantity. But what you're going to understand by the end of this is not just what these items are. It's why they matter, how to use them in ways you've never considered, and exactly how much of each one you actually need to have on hand. Because there's a massive difference between having some of something and having enough of it. And most people don't find that out until the moment when having enough suddenly matters more than anything else. Let's get into it. Number 1, salt. Let's start with something so basic you probably have a container of it within 10 feet of you right now. Plain, everyday table salt. You can grab a standard container for under $1 at almost any grocery store on earth. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is too obvious to bother with, stay with me. Because most people dramatically underestimate what salt can do. The single most important thing salt offers in a survival context is preservation. Long before refrigerators existed, salt was how humanity kept food from spoiling. You can use it to cure meat and vegetables, extending their usable life by weeks or even months without any electricity required. In a situation where the grid goes down and your refrigerator becomes a warm box within 48 hours, that ability is genuinely critical. Cured and salted meat doesn't just survive. It becomes jerky, one of the most calorie-dense and long-lasting foods you can produce from basic ingredients. But salt's usefulness doesn't stop with food. In a pinch, it can clean and disinfect wounds when proper antiseptics aren't available. A simple saltwater rinse is something field medics have used for centuries because it works. It can substitute for toothpaste. Mix it with a little water and you've got a basic but effective way to maintain dental hygiene when store-bought products run out. Spread it on icy walkways to prevent slipping and injury during winter conditions. Use it in damp storage areas to slow the development of mildew on clothing and gear. Here's the part that makes salt genuinely remarkable as a preparedness item. It doesn't expire. Not in any practical sense. As long as you keep it dry, salt stored today is still usable in 50 years. There's no rotation needed, no degradation to worry about. It just sits there, ready. Our ancestors understood the value of salt in a way modern society has completely forgotten. For most of recorded history, it was treated as currency. The word salary literally derives from the Latin word for salt. That's how essential it was considered to human survival and commerce. When I say stock up, I'm not talking about throwing an extra container in your next grocery cart. I'm talking about 20 to 30 pounds stored properly in sealed containers. That sounds like a lot until you start using it for food preservation, and then suddenly it doesn't sound like nearly enough. Number 2, white distilled vinegar. A full gallon of white distilled vinegar runs about $3. For $3, you're getting one of the most genuinely multi-purpose liquids that exists. And most people have one small bottle of it sitting in a kitchen cabinet they haven't touched in a year. Vinegar is simultaneously a powerful cleaner, an effective disinfectant, a reliable food preservative, a natural weed killer, and a surprisingly useful first aid tool. That combination of functions in one inexpensive liquid is almost impossible to match. On the medical side, diluted vinegar can soothe minor burns and insect stings while reducing the risk of surface infection. It can be mixed with water to create a basic deodorizer for your home or your gear when other options aren't available. Pour it on rusty tools to cut through oxidation and extend the life of equipment you're depending on. From a food standpoint, vinegar is fundamental to pickling and preserving garden produce. If you're growing food and you need to extend its shelf life without refrigeration, vinegar is one of your primary tools. One of the most underrated aspects of vinegar in a preparedness context is its barter value. Almost nobody stocks it ahead of time, which means when sanitation becomes an issue and people start looking for cleaning and preservation solutions, demand for something as simple as a gallon of vinegar can spike dramatically. Stock at least 10 gallons. That number genuinely surprises people at first, but once you're using it regularly across cleaning, food preservation, hygiene, and garden maintenance. It moves faster than you expect. Number 3. Baking soda, around $1 a box, sometimes less. And calling baking soda versatile is almost an understatement. It's one of the few items where the list of uses genuinely keeps going. Most people's mental model of baking soda starts and ends at cooking. That's about 5% of what it can do. As a toothpaste substitute, it's effective and has been used that way for generations. As an odor absorber in enclosed spaces, vehicles, storage containers, small rooms, it outperforms most commercial products. When water is limited and dishwashing becomes an issue, baking soda can clean dishes with minimal rinsing required, which matters enormously when you're conserving every drop. On the health side, it can relieve heartburn and acid reflux, which tend to flare up during high-stress situations and when your diet changes suddenly, both of which happen reliably in emergencies. It can put out small grease fires, which is not a trivial capability when you're cooking over open flames without modern safety equipment. If you're maintaining a garden, it works as a natural pesticide. Here's a practical tip that most people don't think about until they're several days into a situation without running water. When you can't shower, baking soda works as dry shampoo. Work a small amount into your scalp, give it a minute to absorb oil and odor, and brush it out. It's not a luxury experience, but after 4 days without a proper shower, it feels like one. Like salt, baking soda has essentially indefinite shelf life when stored in an airtight container. Stock 20 to 30 boxes. The versatility alone justifies it. Number 4. Sugar. This one catches people off guard. Not honey, not maple syrup, not some artisanal alternative. Just regular white granulated sugar, a 4-pound bag for under $3. Most people think of sugar as a comfort item, and it absolutely is. That in a prolonged emergency where everything has gone wrong, the ability to make food taste slightly better is genuinely important for morale and mental stability. Don't underestimate what small comforts do to people under sustained stress. They matter in ways that are hard to measure but very real. But sugar's survival value goes significantly beyond comfort. There's research-backed medical evidence that packing granulated sugar into a deep wound can help prevent infection and support healing. The mechanism is osmosis. Sugar draws moisture out of the wound, creating an environment where bacteria can't survive and multiply effectively. This isn't folk medicine. It's been used in clinical settings when conventional antibiotics aren't available. Beyond that, sugar is an immediate energy source when your body needs rapid calories. It's essential for food preservation through canning. And in a barter economy, which historically emerges quickly when normal commerce breaks down, sugar transitions from a basic ingredient into a highly valued commodity almost overnight. Think about what a cup of real coffee with actual sugar would mean to someone who has gone 3 weeks without it. That's what makes sugar worth stockpiling seriously. It's part comfort, part medicine, part trade currency, and it stores indefinitely in sealed, dry containers. Number 5. Aluminum foil. A typical roll runs $4 to $5. Heavy-duty versions cost a little more and are worth every extra cent. Aluminum foil is waterproof, heat-resistant, and highly reflective. That combination of properties opens up an unusual range of applications. You can cook food directly on hot coals without any cookware by wrapping it in foil. You can form it into a temporary bowl, plate, or container when nothing else is available. Need to pour a liquid without spilling? Shape the foil into a funnel in about 10 seconds. In an emergency signaling context, a sheet of foil can act as a mirror to reflect sunlight and attract the attention of rescue teams or passing aircraft from significant distances. That's not a trick. It's a legitimate rescue signaling technique that works. For food storage, foil extends freshness and protects against contamination. In a garden, it can be wrapped around young plants to shield them from frost. It can line the inside of a basic solar cooker to concentrate heat for cooking without fuel. Stock at least a dozen rolls, ideally a mix of standard and heavy duty. The heavy-duty version is what you want for repeated use in situations that require durability. At this price point, there's no reason not to have a significant supply. Number 6. Plastic wrap. Same price range as foil, completely different set of uses, and dramatically underestimated as a survival supply. The core value of plastic wrap is its ability to create an airtight seal over almost any surface or shape. In a medical context, you can use it to cover wounds and keep bandages dry while moving through wet conditions or working. It waterproofs gear and documents. It can extend the life of food that's been opened. Stretched over a frame, it functions as a makeshift greenhouse cover for protecting young plants from cold. In a household emergency, it can temporarily seal a leaking pipe connection or waterproof a broken window or damaged roof section while you work on a more permanent solution. It weighs almost nothing. It takes up almost no storage space, and it never expires. Those 3 qualities together make plastic wrap one of the easiest items to stock and one of the most consistently useful when you actually need it. Number 7. Trash bags. This one was mentioned briefly at the start, and it deserves a much fuller conversation because the gap between what most people think trash bags are and what they actually are in a survival situation is enormous. You need multiple types. Thin bags for everyday waste and sanitation, standard kitchen bags for regular use, and heavy-duty contractor bags, the thick, reinforced kind, for serious tasks. A box of 32 contractor-grade bags runs about $15, which is less than 50 cents per bag for something that can literally prevent hypothermia. Here's what trash bags actually do in a real emergency. Cut one open flat and you have a waterproof ground cover that keeps moisture from seeping into your sleeping area. Keep it intact and you have a rain poncho when the weather turns bad. Use it to collect water through transpiration. Tie it around a leafy branch in sunlight and moisture condenses inside as the plant breathes. Hang them over windows as blackout covers to prevent light from showing your location at night. Pair one with a 5-gallon bucket and you've created a sanitary emergency toilet. Stuff one with dry leaves and you've made an insulating layer that can genuinely help maintain body heat in cold conditions. The pace at which you burn through trash bags in an actual emergency will shock you. They stop being trash bags and start being multi-purpose tools you reach for constantly. 3 boxes of contractor bags and several boxes of standard kitchen bags is a reasonable starting point. Number 8. Candles. Simple, old-fashioned candles. Emergency candles from most stores cost under $5 for a pack. Dollar stores often carry taper candles and tea lights for even less. People think of candles as purely decorative in the modern world. In a power outage lasting more than a few hours, that perception changes fast. Light is not a luxury when you're navigating a dark house with children, when you're trying to read important documents, when you're cooking after sundown. But candles offer more than just light. In a small enclosed space, even a single candle generates measurable heat. Not enough to warm a room, but enough to make a tent or small shelter noticeably more livable in cold conditions. Tea light candles under a clay pot can warm small spaces and even heat small amounts of food or water. And there's a psychological benefit to candlelight that's hard to overstate. When the grid is down and everything feels uncertain, a lit candle creates a sense of normalcy and calm that genuinely helps people cope. Stored away from extreme heat, candles last decades. I have candles more than 10 years old that burn perfectly. Stock a variety. Long-burning pillar candles for extended light, tea lights for heating applications, and standard emergency candles as no-frills reliable backups. From a barter perspective, after someone has spent several nights in complete darkness, a candle becomes worth considerably more than what you paid for it. Number 9. Toilet paper. In 2020, millions of people learned something they should have already known. Most of them learned it standing in an empty grocery store aisle, staring at bare shelves. Toilet paper is not an optional comfort item. It is fundamental to sanitation, hygiene, and disease prevention. When it's gone, the alternatives range from unpleasant to genuinely unsanitary in ways that create real health risks, especially when medical resources are limited. A standard 12-pack costs between $8 and $12. As long as it's stored somewhere dry, toilet paper has no meaningful expiration date. It can sit in storage for years without any degradation in quality or function. The baseline for storage is 3 to 6 months of supply for every person in your household. Calculate your current weekly usage and multiply it out. Most people are shocked by how quickly that number adds up when they actually do the math. And in an emergency context, where normal routines are disrupted and sanitation management becomes more labor-intensive, usage often increases beyond normal rates. Yes, there are alternatives. Reusable cloth, bidet attachments if water is available, various improvised options. But toilet paper remains the simplest, most hygienic, and most practical solution, especially in situations where water is scarce or contaminated and washing reusable materials creates additional problems. Stock more than you think you need. The carrying cost of extra toilet paper is basically zero, and the downside of running out in a prolonged emergency is not one you want to experience. Number 10. Matches. Not just any matches, strike anywhere matches if you can find them. Waterproof or storm matches wherever possible. A small box of waterproof matches runs $6 to $8 and contains roughly 25 matches designed to light in wind, rain, and conditions where ordinary matches fail completely. That might seem expensive on a per-match basis until you're in those conditions and you understand exactly what you paid for. Regular matches are still worth stockpiling as a low-cost backup. Dollar stores often sell them in bulk for almost nothing. But waterproof and storm matches are what belong in your emergency kit and your bug-out bag, because the conditions in which you most desperately need fire are typically the same conditions that make lighting it hardest. The simple case for matches, alongside all your other fire-starting tools, is this. They require no skill and no setup. A lighter can run out of fuel or fail in extreme cold. A ferro rod requires technique and practice. Matches are the most accessible fire-starting tool available to someone who's scared, cold, inexperienced, or working in low light. That simplicity is a feature, not a limitation. Redundancy in fire starting is not overcaution. It's the minimum standard for anyone serious about preparedness. Force number 11. Lighters. A disposable lighter costs $1 to $2. Bought in bulk, often less. And a single lighter can produce thousands of flames before exhausting its fuel supply, making it one of the most efficient fire-starting tools available at any price point. My personal philosophy on lighters is to treat them the way you treat a critical backup system. Spread them everywhere. Emergency kits, vehicles, different rooms of the house, jacket pockets, toolboxes. The goal is to ensure that wherever you are when you need fire, there's a lighter within reach. 30 or 40 lighters stored across different locations sounds excessive until the moment it doesn't. At $1 to $2 each, the total cost of that inventory is negligible compared to its practical value. In a survival or barter economy, a functional lighter is an item people will trade significant resources for. Fire means warmth. Fire means cooked food. Fire means purified water. Fire means safety. A small plastic lighter represents all of those things simultaneously, which is why it becomes one of the most sought-after items almost immediately when normal supply chains break down. Number 12. Resealable bags, Ziploc-style bags in multiple sizes. Gallon bags run about 10 cents each in standard packs. Freezer-grade versions cost slightly more and are worth the difference because they're thicker, more durable, and can be washed and reused multiple times. The value of resealable bags in a preparedness context comes down to 3 capabilities: moisture protection, organization, and airtight sealing. Those 3 functions apply to almost everything you own and everything you're trying to preserve. Use them to keep food fresh after opening. Protect important documents, identification, insurance papers, emergency contacts from water damage. Store seeds from your garden for future planting. Shield electronics and batteries from humidity. Organize small medical supplies, fasteners, and tools so you can actually find them when you need them. Ration portions of food to manage consumption rates during extended shortages. Stock a variety of sizes, small sandwich bags through gallon and 2-gallon options. They take up almost no space, last indefinitely, and in an emergency, you will reach for them constantly. The people who have them wonder how they ever managed without a serious supply. The people who don't have them figure out very quickly that they should have stocked more. Number 13. Duct tape. The running joke is that duct tape can fix anything. The reality is that it can fix a remarkable number of things, and the ones it can't fix it can usually temporarily stabilize until a real fix becomes possible. A quality roll runs $6 to $8, and the emphasis on quality matters. Cheap duct tape loses adhesion, peels in heat, and fails under stress in exactly the situations where you're counting on it. Buy from a reputable brand with a strong adhesive and thick backing. It's the difference between a repair that holds and a repair that fails at the worst moment. What duct tape can do in a survival context is almost its own dedicated topic. Repair torn gear and damaged clothing. Patch holes in tents, tarps, and shelter materials. Improvise a splint for an injured limb. Remove splinters. Fix broken shoes. Seal containers. Patch a vehicle hose temporarily. Secure loose equipment. Reinforce weak points before they fail completely. The list keeps going in almost any situation you can imagine. 10 rolls as a baseline supply is a starting point for anyone serious about preparedness. Duct tape is one of the genuinely universal problem-solving tools, and its low cost combined with that versatility makes it one of the easiest and most justifiable stockpiling decisions you can make. Number 14. Paracord. 100 feet of 550 paracord costs $10 to $15. The 550 in the name refers to its breaking strength, 550 pounds. For a cord that thin and that lightweight, that strength-to-weight ratio is extraordinary. Inside the outer sheath are multiple inner strands, each of which can be individually extracted for lighter-duty tasks. The inner strands work as fishing line. They work as improvised sewing thread for field repairs. They work as snare wire. The outer sheath alone still functions as a usable cord for general tasks. You're not buying one piece of cordage, you're buying a system. The applications are genuinely extensive. Building and securing shelters, hanging food caches out of reach of animals, setting traps and snares, lashing together improvised structures, hanging wet clothing to dry, making emergency repairs to gear, straps, and equipment, creating improvised tourniquets in extreme medical emergencies, securing loads during transport. Several hundred feet of paracord stored alongside cheaper utility cord for everyday tasks is a reasonable target. The utility cord handles routine jobs, so you're preserving the high-quality paracord for situations that actually demand its strength. Cordage has been a fundamental survival tool for the entirety of human history. There's a reason for that. Number 15. Safety pins. $2 to $3 for an assorted container. One of the cheapest items on this list, and consistently one of the most underrated. The moment you genuinely need a safety pin and don't have one, is the moment their value becomes completely clear. They repair clothing without any sewing skills or equipment. They hold bandages securely in place when proper medical fasteners aren't available. They can improvise a basic fishing hook in a genuine pinch. They replace broken zipper pulls. They organize small items. They serve as emergency fasteners for gear when buckles or snaps fail. Safety pins weigh almost nothing. They take up no meaningful storage space. They never expire or degrade. And they work without any training, any skill, or any setup. You pick one up, and it does the thing it's designed to do. A few containers in different sizes stored across your supplies, vehicles, and bags ensures you always have one within reach. It's a $2 investment that will pay for itself the first time you actually need one. Number 16. Paper products. Paper towels around $2 a roll. Paper plates around $4 a pack. Items that look, on the surface, too mundane to belong on a serious preparedness list. In a short to medium-term emergency, anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, paper products solve a specific and critical problem that most people don't think about until they're facing it. When water is limited and fuel is precious, washing dishes is not a trivial activity. It consumes clean water that should be going toward drinking and cooking. It burns fuel that should be going toward warmth or food preparation. Paper plates eliminate that problem entirely. Use them once, dispose of them, and your water and fuel stay where they're actually needed. Paper towels and napkins extend the same logic to general cleaning and hygiene maintenance. They're disposable, which matters enormously when laundry isn't possible, and sanitation standards need to be maintained with limited resources. Beyond their primary use, paper products work as fire starters. They can serve as improvised wound coverings in a pinch. They can function as basic pre-filters before water goes through a more thorough purification process. A few weeks of paper product supply stored away makes a stressful emergency meaningfully easier to manage. Number 17. Lip balm. $1 or $2 per stick. And I know this sounds like a stretch, but stick with me. Your lips are made up of some of the most delicate skin on your body. They don't have the protective outer layer that covers most of your skin surface. When they dry out, crack, and split, which happens quickly in cold weather, dry conditions, or when you're dehydrated, all of which are common in emergencies, you've created open wounds in a high movement area that's constantly exposed. Eating and drinking become painful. Healing is slow. And cracked lips create an entry point for infection that's genuinely problematic when medical resources are limited. That's the basic case for lip balm. But its secondary uses are where it becomes legitimately interesting as a survival tool. Most lip balms contain petroleum-based ingredients that make them effective fire starters. Apply a small amount to tinder, and it catches and holds flame significantly better. They work as a light lubricant for small mechanical components and tools. They provide a protective barrier over minor cuts and abrasions. They prevent and treat blisters on your feet, which becomes critical during extended periods of physical activity or evacuation on foot. They protect against windburn and harsh weather exposure. In a barter economy, small comfort items like lip balm carry surprisingly significant value. When basic comforts are gone, even modest relief becomes something people will trade meaningful resources for. Buy a couple dozen. Spread them across bags, pockets, vehicles, and storage kits. At $1 to $2 each, there's almost no preparedness investment with a better ratio of cost to practical value. Number 18. Bar soap about $1 per bar, sometimes less. And while the modern world has largely shifted to liquid body wash, bar soap has specific advantages for long-term storage that make it clearly superior for preparedness purposes. Bar soap lasts longer than liquid soap. It takes up far less space. It doesn't require bulky plastic containers. Stored somewhere dry, it essentially never expires. The soap in my storage from years ago performs exactly the same as soap I bought last week. The fundamental importance of soap in an emergency is about more than comfort. When access to medical care is limited or non-existent, staying clean is one of the most effective disease prevention tools available. The simple act of washing hands properly and regularly has been shown to prevent more illness than most medical interventions combined. In a scenario where hospitals are overwhelmed or inaccessible, that basic hygiene layer becomes your primary defense against serious infection. Bar soap also works as a basic laundry detergent when shaved down and dissolved in water. It lubricates stubborn screws and nails for easier driving. It can be used as a marking tool on fabric or other surfaces when you need a visible guideline. At least a dozen bars per person in your household is a reasonable minimum. Unscented varieties are more versatile and less likely to irritate sensitive skin over extended use. Number 19. Bleach. A gallon of plain household bleach runs $4 to $6, and it performs two functions that are genuinely irreplaceable in an emergency: disinfection and water purification. The water purification application alone justifies having significant bleach storage. In a situation where tap water is unsafe or unavailable, you can make water drinkable by adding approximately 8 drops of plain unscented bleach per gallon and letting it sit for 30 minutes. That process kills most biological contaminants and makes water safe to consume. It's not complicated, it's not expensive, and it can be the difference between staying hydrated and getting dangerously ill. Beyond water treatment, bleach sanitizes surfaces, disinfects medical tools, kills mold and mildew, whitens and decontaminates clothing and gear, and removes bacterial contamination from anything it contacts at appropriate dilution. The main limitation of bleach is shelf life. It gradually loses potency, typically within 6 months to a year, depending on storage conditions. The solution is rotation. Buy a fresh gallon every few months and use the older stock for general cleaning, so you always have a fresh, full-strength supply available for critical applications. 2 important specifications. Only buy plain, unscented bleach. Splashless formulas and scented varieties contain additives that make them unsuitable for water purification. And store bleach somewhere cool and dark to slow degradation as much as possible. Number 20. Batteries. A pack of AA or AAA batteries runs $10 to $15 depending on brand and quantity. And this is an item where the biggest mistake people make isn't failing to buy batteries. It's buying the wrong types or only one kind. Every battery-powered device you depend on in an emergency, flashlights, headlamps, emergency radios, weather radios, lanterns, requires a specific battery type. The first step is auditing every device you own and might rely on, listing exactly which battery it takes, and building your supply accordingly. Running out of D batteries when all your flashlights take D batteries while you have a drawer full of AAs is a completely avoidable failure. Lithium batteries are worth the premium cost for long-term storage. Standard alkaline batteries last 5 to 7 years in storage. Lithium batteries last 10 to 15 years, perform significantly better in extreme cold, and hold their charge more reliably during extended storage. For devices you don't use regularly, but absolutely depend on in an emergency, like a weather radio or a backup flashlight, lithium is the right investment. For devices you cycle through regularly, standard alkaline batteries are fine and considerably cheaper. The practical approach is to maintain enough supply of each type to run your critical devices through an extended emergency, and to track your inventory so you're never surprised by a depleted supply when you actually need it. And number 21, alcohol. The final item and one of the most versatile. Specifically, isopropyl rubbing alcohol at 70% concentration. A small bottle runs $2 to $3. Rubbing alcohol disinfects wounds, sanitizes tools and surfaces, removes adhesive residue, cleans electronics, and works as an effective fire starter. It can fuel small alcohol-burning stoves that are specifically designed for it. And 70% concentration is actually more effective for disinfection than 91%. The added water content helps the alcohol penetrate bacterial cell membranes more efficiently, making it better at killing pathogens despite being less concentrated. For wound disinfection, surface sanitation, and making homemade hand sanitizer, rubbing alcohol is close to irreplaceable in an emergency medical context. Stock multiple bottles. On the consumable alcohol side, this is a personal choice, but from a purely preparedness standpoint, inexpensive spirits like vodka serve legitimate secondary functions. They work as disinfectants in a pinch. They function as mild pain reducers in situations where nothing better is available. And throughout recorded history, alcohol has been one of the most consistently valuable barter commodities. In high-stress extended emergencies, demand for items that reduce anxiety and provide comfort reliably spikes. A bottle of spirits represents tangible trade value that holds up across almost any scenario. The bigger picture. 21 items. None of them expensive, most of them available at any grocery store within 5 miles of where you're sitting right now. But before you close this out and start making a shopping list, there are a few things worth understanding about how preparedness actually works, because having the right items is only part of it. The biggest mistake people make when they first get serious about preparedness is trying to do everything at once. They watch a video like this, make a list of everything they don't have, and then either spend money they don't have impulsively or get overwhelmed by the scope of it and do nothing. Neither outcome serves you. Start with 3 or 4 items. Build slowly and consistently. Preparedness built over months and years is more durable than preparedness assembled in a panic. Rotation matters as much as storage. The principle is simple. Use what you store and store what you use. When you open a container of something from your supply, replace it. When bleach approaches the end of its effective shelf life, use it for cleaning and buy fresh. Supplies that you regularly cycle through stay fresh, stay familiar, and don't become the outdated, forgotten inventory you discover in a corner 5 years from now. Involve everyone in your household. Preparedness that only one person understands doesn't function when that person isn't there. When everyone knows where the supplies are, how to use them, and what the plan is, the whole system becomes more resilient, and finally understand what preparedness is actually for. It isn't about fear. It's not about catastrophizing or living in a constant state of anticipation for disaster. It's about something much simpler and much more grounding, knowing that whatever happens, you have options. You're not entirely dependent on supply chains functioning perfectly, stores staying stocked, or infrastructure running smoothly. You've built a small buffer of capability and resources that lets you take care of yourself and the people you're responsible for. That buffer doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't require a bunker, or a years-long food supply, or sophisticated tactical gear. Sometimes it's 30 pounds of salt, and a dozen rolls of duct tape, and a box of contractor bags. Sometimes it's exactly the cheap, overlooked things on the shelf that everybody walked past. Start there.